It was a Tuesday, or maybe a Thursday. The specific day blurs now, lost in the shadow of what came after, but it started like any other day. The sun was trying to break through. A pale light seeped around the curtains. A quiet, unassuming light. No hint of the darkness to come. I remember thinking about my to-do list. Groceries to buy, a package to mail, small, mundane tasks that fill up a life. The kind you barely notice doing until you can't do them anymore. They were the architecture of a normal day. Leaving the house felt normal. Locking the door behind me, the familiar click of the deadbolt. I walked towards the bus stop, the same route I'd taken countless times, past the same houses, the same parked cars, a map of my small, contained world, a world I believed I understood, a world I thought was safe. How wrong I was. The bus doors hissed shut. I found an empty seat by a window. The engine rumbled, a low, steady vibration. Outside, the city scrolled past, the usual shops, the familiar corners, people waiting at other stops, their faces blurred through the glass. I watched them, unthinking. We passed the stop for the library, then the stop for the park. But then we kept going, straight when we should have turned right. A small detail, barely noticeable at first. I frowned, looked out the window again. This street wasn't on the route. Not for the number 12. Suddenly, a shout from the front of the bus. Harsh, commanding. Heads snapped up, silence fell. Two men stood up, materializing from the shadows. One was tall, the other shorter, stockier. Their faces were hard, eyes like chips of ice. One of them held a gun. The metallic glint of the gun seared itself into my memory. The world seemed to tilt, to spin. No one moved. No one dared to breathe. The man with the gun scanned the rows of frozen faces. Cold, calculating. The other man moved towards the driver. His movements were quick, efficient. The bus rumbled on, each mile taking us further from safety. The familiar streets had long since disappeared. The windows showed a world indifferent to our plight. Trees, fields, empty sky. They offered no solace. We were utterly alone, trapped at the mercy of these strangers. I looked at the other passengers, their faces pale masks of fear. We were all connected by this shared terror. Time stretched, distorted. Minutes felt like hours. The air inside the bus grew stale, thick with the scent of fear. The kidnappers moved with an eerie calm. One patrolled the aisle, the other remained near the front. They were a wall between us and the world. My mind began to race, playing out horrifying scenarios. Hours seemed to crawl by. Then one of them moved, the taller one. He cleared his throat, a harsh grating sound. He spoke. Phones, wallets, jewelry. Put them in this bag. Slowly, shakily, hands moved, fumbling in pockets. Each item dropped into the bag. A little piece of a life surrendered. My own hands trembled as I removed my watch. After the collection, an even heavier silence descended. The bag of our belongings sat at the front. The kidnappers conferred in hushed tones. Then the shorter man turned, holding a piece of card. On it, scrawled in thick black marker, a number. A very large number. This was the ransom, the price tag on our lives. The card with the number, it stayed there, propped against the dashboard, a constant reminder, a glaring symbol of our captivity. The kidnappers said nothing more about it. They didn't need to. The silence screamed. The number burned into our retinas, a brand, marking us, each digit, a weight, pressing down. We were trapped, not just by guns, but by that impossible sum. The bus continued its journey, but now, the journey felt different. It had a price, a monstrous stated price. Every mile we traveled, it felt like a mile further from hope, further from the world where such numbers were just figures, not demands that held lives in the balance. I thought of my family, my friends. How would they even know? Who would tell them? The questions multiplied, each one a fresh stab of fear, each one unanswered. A quiet sob broke the silence from somewhere behind me. It was quickly stifled, but we all heard it. The sound of despair, raw, unfiltered. It echoed what we all felt, the utter, crushing helplessness. The kidnappers ignored it, or seemed to. They were stone, unmoved, unmovable. Their purpose was clear, their resolve chilling. They had made their demand. Now, the waiting would begin. The realization sunk in, deeper and deeper. This wasn't just about surviving the next few hours. This was about a transaction, a terrifying bargain, our lives, for that number. The bus became a cage, not just of metal and glass, but of fear, and the suffocating weight of that demand. The outside world with its ordinary concerns, it felt a million miles away, another planet. We were in their world now, a world of cold demands and silent terror. The bus rumbled on, but differently. Its pace seemed slower now, more hesitant. Or maybe it was just us, slowing down inside. The ransom demand hung in the air, a heavy, invisible cloud, choking the last remnants of hope. The number, that impossible figure, it echoed in the silence, louder than any shouted threat. Our captors were still, watchful, their faces unreadable in the dim light. Were they waiting for a call, a signal? Their silence was a different kind of weapon. It allowed our fears to breed, to multiply in the darkness of our minds. One of them occasionally glanced at a cheap watch. The gesture was small, almost insignificant, but it screamed of deadlines, of time running out, for us. No passenger dared to break the quiet. What was there to say? Words felt useless, meaningless, against the stark reality of our situation. The shock had worn off, replaced by a dull, throbbing dread, a deep ache of helplessness. We were merely pieces in their game, waiting to see if our ransom would be met, or if our value was too low. Then the bus shuddered to a halt. The engine cut out, abruptly. The sudden silence was deafening, more profound than before. We were somewhere remote, utterly still. No sounds of traffic, no city hum, just the wind, maybe. A faint whisper outside. The doors remained closed, sealed, trapped in this metal box. The waiting had truly begun. The light inside the bus faded further. Dusk, perhaps, had surrendered tonight. Outside the dirt-streaked windows, nothing. Just an impenetrable blackness. No comforting lights, no signs of civilization. We were adrift in an ocean of darkness. The world we knew felt a million miles away, lost, irretrievable. This new reality was stark, empty, filled only with our collective fear. Physical discomforts gnawed at us. Thirst parched our throats. A dull hunger began to ache in our stomachs. The cramped seats offered no relief. Muscles stiffened, limbs grew numb. These small miseries, they added to the weight, layer upon layer of suffering. But no one complained. No one asked for anything. Fear was a powerful silencer, more effective than any gag. My mind raced, uncontrollably. Were they making calls? Had our absence even been noticed yet? The questions were a relentless torment, each one unanswered, unanswerable. Hope felt like a distant memory, a foolish, naive thing I once possessed. Now there was only the cold grip of uncertainty and the slow, agonizing crawl of time. Each second stretched into an eternity. A child whimpered softly in the darkness. A small, heartbreaking sound, quickly hushed by a terrified mother. An old man coughed, a dry, rasping sound. These tiny disturbances, they only emphasized the stillness. The kidnappers remained impassive, shadows at the front of the bus. Their presence a constant, silent threat. They seemed immune to the passage of time and to our growing desperation. Time lost all meaning. Was it hours or merely minutes? The darkness outside offered no clues. The interior of the bus was our entire world. A cramped, suffocating prison. Each breath felt like a conscious effort, a small act of defiance against the despair. But the air remained heavy, stale, thick with unspoken fears, and the lingering scent of metallic dread. Every tiny sound was amplified. The creak of a seat as someone shifted, the rustle of clothing, a kidnapper clearing his throat. These noises pierced the silence, like sharp needles against raw nerves. I found myself listening, straining. For what? A sign, a change, anything to break this unbearable monotony, this silent, terrifying vigil. My thoughts turned to my family. Their faces swam before my eyes. Would I ever see them again? The question was a physical pain, a tightening in my chest. I tried to push the thought away, to focus on something, anything. The pattern on the seat in front of me, the faint smell of diesel, but the fear always returned, stronger, more insistent. We were isolated, each of us, trapped in our own private nightmares. Though we sat side by side, shoulder to shoulder, a strange, silent community of the terrified, the kidnappers. They were the gatekeepers, holding the keys to our future, or lack thereof. Their dark forms were a constant reminder. We were not forgotten by them. We were simply waiting for their next move. Then a noise, different from before, sharper, not from inside the bus, but from outside, distant at first. A car engine, or something heavier. Heads heavy with exhaustion tried to lift. Our captors stiffened, alert. One muttered something to the other. A new tension filled the stale air. Not just fear, but anticipation. Something was changing. The shorter kidnapper. He moved quickly. He peered out of the grimy windscreen. His silhouette was taut, strained. Then he turned. His face was still hard, but something flickered in his eyes. Urgency? Get ready to move, he barked. The command was abrupt, unexpected. Move where? To what? The questions hung unspoken. No one dared to ask. We just waited, numbly. Suddenly, the bus engine roared back to life. The sound was shocking after the long silence. It vibrated through the floor, through our bodies. We began to move, slowly at first, then faster. The bus bumped along an uneven surface. Where were we going now? Was this another stage of the nightmare, or something else entirely? Hope, a tiny, treacherous seed. It tried to sprout in the barren soil of my fear. The bus stopped again, as suddenly as it started. This time it felt different, final. The tall kidnapper. He wrenched the door lever. The doors hissed open, violently. Cold, fresh air rushed in. It smelled of damp earth and freedom. Out, now, go! He yelled. His voice was rough, edgy. We stumbled, pushed, eager to obey, to escape the crushing confines of that metal cage. My feet touched the ground, solid ground. It felt unsteady, alien. The air was cold, so cold on my face, I gasped it in, deep lungfuls like a drowning person finding the surface. There were lights flashing, blue and red, cutting through the pre-dawn gloom, and voices. So many voices, shouting, calling, authority, men in uniforms. They were everywhere. Hands reached for me, gentle, firm, guiding me away from the bus. Someone wrapped a blanket around my shoulders. It was rough, but warm. I looked back at the bus. That metal monster, silhouetted against the flashing lights, it seemed unreal, a figment of a nightmare. But the terror, that was real, it still clung to me. A cold, invisible shroud. My legs felt like jelly. I could barely stand. Other passengers were emerging, their faces pale, streaked with dirt and tears. Some were crying openly, others stared blankly. The same shock, the same dazed disbelief. We were free, but not yet whole. Paramedics spoke to me, calmly, asking questions I couldn't quite process. Their voices were a low hum, distant. The world felt tilted, off-kilter, as if I was watching it all from far away. Then a phone was pressed into my hand. "Call someone!" a kind voice said. My fingers fumbled with the buttons. Who to call? What to say? The words wouldn't come. My mind was a blank slate, wiped clean. But then, a name surfaced. A number. The connection was made. Hearing a familiar voice, it broke something inside me. The first sob escaped. A torrent. Unstoppable. Months have passed since that day, or is it years now? Time blurs, the sharp edges of the terror have softened, but the memory remains, etched deep. A scar on my soul, invisible to the eye, but always there, a dull ache. Some days are better than others. Some nights I still wake up. Heart pounding, the bus, the darkness, the faces of the men. They return, unbidden. I try to live a normal life, whatever normal means now. But things are different, changed. A crowded bus, a sudden shout, the way a stranger looks at me. These small things can trigger it, the fear, the breathlessness, the cold sweat. Safety is a fragile concept now, an illusion I once believed in. That innocence is gone, stolen on that terrifying ride. People say I was brave, that I survived, and yes, I am here, I am alive. But survival has a cost. A part of me was left on that bus. A part of me died that day. I appreciate the small things more, a quiet morning, the taste of coffee, the feel of sun on my skin. These ordinary moments, they are precious, because I know how quickly they can be taken away. The experience has marked me, forever. It's a shadow that walks with me, sometimes faint, sometimes overwhelming. I don't know if it will ever truly leave, but I refuse to let it define me. I survived. We all did. And in that survival there is a strange, quiet strength, a resilience I never knew I possessed. The world is not always safe,